Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad that you could join me today. And if you're listening to this on the podcast directory, please make sure that you check out the show on iTunes. And you can do a search for Women Entrepreneurs Radio. And also you can come to the blog, WomenEntrepreneursSecrets.com. And there you will see links to how you can subscribe directly on iTunes for the show, or also listen online on Podomatic. And there's different ways you can do that. You can use a mobile device or listen online or download the show. So there's options there as well. And also there's an archive of shows on Blog Talk Radio, blogtalkradio.com/CoachDeb, that goes back over 7 years. So you want to go and check that out and listen to what some conversations with some entrepreneurs over the years, and see what they've had to say and, what they have to share with you. So I certainly hope that you will do that as well. And you can visit my site at deborhabailey.com and learn more about me and my books and other blogs that I have out there. I think I've got them all linked there for you, so please stop by there and check it out. And, of course, on the blog, WomenEntrepreneursSecrets.com. There's a lot of posts there of interest to women entrepreneurs, so make sure you check that out, too. And we're going to get started with the show today. And I'm introducing my guest, Dethra Giles. And she's a keynote speaker, an executive coach, an HR strategist, author, and the Chief Bridge Architect at ExecuPrep. And she shared her knowledge as a contributor writer on human resources and professional development topics for today's Financial Woman, YBE, and I Work Well publications. So welcome, Dethra. I'm really glad to have you here.
It's great to be here, Deborah.
So, why don't you just start out for the listeners to let everyone know what your journey was in terms of, what you've done and, how did you get started in this field?
So it started back when I was going to go back to my mother's room. I'm just joking with you. It started in college, actually. I went to college like 80% of the people as a faculty member at the university. I know how many people go to college thinking they're going to be one thing, and they have a total misconception. So I actually went to college thinking I was going to be a neurosurgeon.
Okay.
Quickly learned. I got into the lab, and I am deathly afraid of frogs. Had my first lab experience with a frog, had to have the security call to get everyone out, and quickly realized I was not going to be a neurosurgeon. So I went on my path thinking what would be next. And I ended up going into a nonprofit, running the nonprofit, and realizing I was going back to get a master's degree and asked, what is this that I love so much? And they said, that's human resources. And it was actually downhill from there. I went into human resources, got my master's, and got an MBA actually, and stayed in that field and actually decided, you know what, after being director of a large institution, having a staff of over 50 people, being responsible for 50,000, I realized, you know what, I can open my own company. And I got the entrepreneurship bug, and here I am now, the Chief Bridge Architect at ExecuPrep.
Wow, that's fantastic. That certainly is an interesting journey.
I know, to go from neurosurgeon to HR entrepreneur. So, yeah, it's an interesting story, to say the least.
Well, yes, it certainly lines up with other people I've talked to because, usually it is not a straight line. It's more often than not, they started off in one thing and had a different idea, and then they ended up somewhere else. And, usually not somewhere they would have imagined that they would be. But more than likely the right place for them to be, but, not exactly what they thought.
It's never that way. I actually laugh at people because I tell people, okay, so we are trusting people who we don't trust to drink alcohol to make a lifelong decision about what they should do and send them to college and to pick a major for what they're going to do for the rest of their life. But we don't trust them with the Budweiser, but we trust them to make a decision about the rest of their life. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
That's a perfect way to look at it, actually. Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, I was thinking back on that myself. You know, after going into corporate, I swore I would never do, and then just kind of picking a major. I was an English major during a time when, you know, people were like, oh, you're an English major, you know, what are you going to do with that? You know, it was kind of the idea that you weren't supposed to do that. And, you know, that hasn't stopped me from doing anything. But I realized looking back that how can you really make that kind of a choice when you're really just coming into your own or just kind of coming out, you know, in a lot of cases away from home, and now you're in a different situation, different transition, and now suddenly you're supposed to make this life-changing decision.
Absolutely. Like, really? And for me, it was even more detailed. I came from an environment, didn't grow up with a lot of money, came from a kind of poor, I don't say not privileged environment. And so in my community, success meant being a doctor or a lawyer. That was it. And so I didn't know about engineering or human resources or accounting or any of these other things that people are making billions upon billions of dollars doing, or real estate investment. I didn't know about that stuff. Had I had those options, neurosurgeon probably wouldn't have been at the top of my list.
Well, that's true. That's another excellent point, is that often people don't know the wealth of options. You really have no idea unless you've been exposed to that or I don't know. I mean, you know people who are doing it. Maybe you go, oh, okay, I like this person to mentor me or admire what they're doing. You really don't know. You're just exposed to what you're exposed to at that point.
Yeah, you have no clue.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know the mechanic was making a bunch of money because it cost $1,000 to replace a window. Had I known, I might have been a mechanic or, you know. I did not know that the guy who fixed the dishwasher charged $200 just to come to the house.
Yes. I found that out a couple of years ago when I had to have my snowblower fixed. And here in New Jersey, we had some really interesting winters. And, you know, the young man who came to deliver a part after it was brought back drove up in a Mercedes.
And parked next to your Toyota Corolla.
Well, Camry. So you're
right. See, I have an Avalon. I know this story well.
There you go. I was like, oh my God, you know, I'm very happy for him, but it's so interesting because when, you know, I was in school, the whole idea of, well, working with your hands was considered vocational, and there was all this stigma around that. But how things have changed over the years.
Absolutely. My daughter is now in the STEM program. She's very, very smart in math and technology. And, you know, they call, because I'm an entrepreneur, I go and talk to the girls, and I tell them, look, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. And you right now, I mean, my daughter's in 6th grade, and she's already coding video games. You will not work for someone else. You know how much I personally have hired people at 6 figures doing some of the stuff that she's already learning to do. You will have your own business. And no one told me that when I was her age. No one told me you can run your own business.
I agree. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. It's such a different mindset, and it's a difference in how people are, or I guess, brought up, or what they hear, you know, what they're encouraged to do by the people around them. You know, and a lot of times people may end up being encouraged just to do what their parents did or you know, whoever is their influence because that's what they know, you know. So it's like, oh, you know, don't get this degree because you won't get a job. Go do this because it's safe. That kind of thing, and I think a lot of times people come out with that impression that, well, I've got to pick the most practical thing because I'm afraid this won't happen or that won't happen or I won't be able to get anywhere. And a lot of that thinking had its place, and there was reasons to look at it that way, but that has really completely changed over, you know, just a short amount of years, I think, and you really have to encourage people now to say, okay, there's no need to stop yourself from going beyond these boundaries that were put there you don't really have to do that anymore. And not to say people didn't do it before either, because a lot of times people went into business for various reasons, because they had to or to take care of their families or whatever. So we kind of went, to me, through a change where people felt like, well, I need to be safe, so I'll go sit in this cubicle.
Right. But I think companies helped us do that. I think corporate America has helped us come to that realization, because what we realized is those things that we thought were safe turned out to be not so safe. And we've realized, okay, when things get hard, I'm on the chopping block. So this feign or this fake security I thought I had, I mean, especially my generation, Generation X, we saw our parents get laid off after working at a job for 20, 25 years. And we thought, I'm not doing that.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I think that was all the shifts that were going on over these past years. And, you know, my mom was pretty lucky that, you know, what she did, and she had a degree, which was, you know, probably not always the norm either for her generation. And then she was able to use that and, you know, really get to a point where when she retired, she had a nice package. She has. And, you know, she's got more things than someone in corporate, people that I know who walked away or took a buyout and may not have those same things in place for them after putting in a lot of time. But, you know, I'm at like the tail end of the baby boom, and we're kind of like, I don't know where we are, because we're not really, I can't really identify with the people who came before me, because I didn't really get all those benefits, I think. But then we're kind of like in this nether world between the generations, and you kind of feel like, okay, I've seen what happens ahead of me, and I'm like, that's not really what I want to do. So I never really stayed anywhere long enough. You know, I was called the job hopper because I never stayed long enough anywhere because I didn't trust it. And the longest I stayed anywhere was AT&T, but then I always, you know, this isn't working, I see a better opportunity, I was out the door. So it benefited me after the changes in career I did and changes in job, and then finally coming out of that right on the cusp of, you know, the financial meltdown. I mean, I'm leaving full-time before all that fell apart, but it was kind of interesting to see how coming out of corporate and just being like, I don't want to be here anyway, I'm out of here, and then seeing kind of the rise in the entrepreneurship thing and more people speaking that word and following that, as opposed to just maybe just before that where you didn't really hear that as much. So, you know, I know that's what your book is touching on, a lot of these issues. So, you know, let's talk about that. You know, please let everybody know what your book is.
Well, the book is called Breaking Good Habits, habits that you should not take, great employee habits that you should not take into entrepreneurship. You know what? It was funny. The first time I came up with the idea, I kind of told my attorney about it. And I called her, and she hung up on me. And I thought, what in the world are you doing? She said, we have to trademark this. And so she called me back because she realized she didn't have enough information to fill out the trademark paperwork. But it was just a regular idea to me, because I realized that some of the failures I was having in my business that I couldn't explain, I didn't understand why I wasn't doing as well as I should have done, was because I was doing those things that made me very successful as an employee. I mean, by the time I was 27, I was director of a department at the second largest institution in the state of Georgia. So I was a successful employee, and I was doing the exact same thing as an entrepreneur, and I eventually realized those good habits are horrible entrepreneur habits. I have to stop doing this, or I'm going to be an employee again.
Wow. That's really interesting. Wow. So you know, expand on that a bit. You know, what are the habits that you think really are the ones that were kind of working against you as an entrepreneur?
One, and some of them we don't even realize. Like the one that the interesting thing about the book is I wrote the book, I did the chapters, but I went to other entrepreneurs and said, you know what, give me your aha moments. I didn't want what they thought the good habit was. I wanted tell me exactly what happened when you had your aha moment. Aha, this is a good habit. That was a good employee habit. It's going to kill me as an entrepreneur. So my personal aha moment was my first trip to New York that a client was playing for. Well, when I was an employee, I had a $13.5 million budget. And the good habit for me was you blow the budget because that's how you prove you need money. So if they gave me $13.5 million, I spend $13.6. Because next year I'm going to get $13.8 million. You prove you need money by spending money. So my first trip to New York, I did it up, Deborah. I mean, I had a travel budget, right? Every entrepreneur budget, you know how much you need. I did it at the Ritz-Carlton. I ate at Morton Steakhouse.
All right.
I took in a show. And I got home and looked at my account and thought, what just happened to me? Who forgot to load my budget? And it hit me, that good habit of blowing the budget to prove I need money so I'll get more money was a great habit. I always had what I needed as an employee. I always had the money I needed. Great habit, employee. It was going to kill me as an entrepreneur.
Wow.
I had to break that good habit instantly. And I learned, that was my aha moment, checking my ATM balance and realizing no one was going to load a $13.5 million budget for me anymore. I had to stay economically. I couldn't go, Ritz-Carlton was no longer in my budget.
But I'm sure it was nice.
Yeah, it was great. That last hoorah was awesome. But we could not do Morton's anymore, at least not at that time. I was a new entrepreneur. And even now that I'm established and I have the money, I still don't stay at the Ritz-Carlton on the regular. But still, I think about it. You know, I budgeted $1,000 for this trip. My goal now is to spend $500 if I can. Before, if I budgeted $1,000 for a trip, my goal was to spend $1,500 because that sure would show them that I need $2,000 for these trips.
Well, it's true, though. That's perfectly correct. That's how it goes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
And even some others, like one of the things I talked about in the book was the differentiating difference. People in corporate America, we think we're standing out. We say, oh, my gosh, I'm standing out from the crowd. That's how I get promoted. We're not really standing out. We're looking at that next level up, and we're imitating them. We're trying to fit in with them. As an entrepreneur, bad habit, you need that USP, that unique selling proposition, and it's nothing like trying to look like your competition. Your goal is to stand out. So what a lot of entrepreneurs do, what do? They find their aspirational company, and they try to imitate that company. Well, you're just a cheap imitation of that company. You actually have to be unique. And our good habit as an employee was standing out from the crowd we were in, but looking just like the crowd we were going to. And as an entrepreneur, that's going to kill you. You have to stand out from all of your competition.
That's really key. I mean, you know, the financial part was very important too, that's for sure. I can identify with that. But it's so interesting this point that you're making, because when I, started out, it seems like it's so long ago, and it really isn't, or maybe just the years just go by so fast now that it seems like, you look up and you're like, what? It's 2016? What happened? It's just weird. But when I was, I took coaching courses and really enjoyed it and finished the program and the whole idea then was to look a certain way. I'm sure if you're dealing with corporate, of course, you want to look a certain way. But I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, who I wanted to work with in particular. But the whole idea was to, have a suit, say we and not I. You had to. The whole idea was, okay, I can't look like it's just me. I have to look like I have this whole team behind me, because then people won't want to work with me if it's just me. And it's kind of interesting because through all this, this time period, I kind of say from the financial meltdown, a lot of things started coming out, and definitely the things that you're pointing out, and the idea of being unique and being yourself and not trying to be like everyone else, because then you're just an imitation. It's kind of interesting how that has become much, much stronger than it was even just a few years ago. You know, I mean, still some people are doing that because they haven't quite figured out who they are yet. But that's definitely a shift I noticed, you know, really coming out more and more and more. And it makes sense, of course. You know, we can't do like everything else. Yes.
I mean, I even had another woman entrepreneur who was a mentor, and she saw me present, and she asked me, why don't you wear collared shirts? I said, because I just don't. Well, it looks more professional to wear a collared shirt. You would never see a man walking around without a collared shirt. And initially, when she told me that, this is a very successful businesswoman. I went to Brooks Brothers and bought every collared shirt they had and every color they had. And I realized that is not me. I am not a blue suit, gray suit, black suit kind of girl. I like bright colors, and I don't wear collared shirts. I cut that out immediately. I was very upset because I spent a lot of money on those collared shirts. But a man to me and said, you know, thank you for being an individual. He said it was just nice to see a splash of color, and what he meant was a loud pink jacket. In the midst of all these suits, I stood out. That was my unique selling proposition. I wasn't like everyone else bidding on that project.
That is an excellent point. That's interesting also, you know, that someone is saying, oh, you've got to fit into what this is at this, you know, at this level. You must look like this. You must be like that. And then you just disappear into the background because everybody is the same. That's right. Interesting. But I'm sure they were nice shirts, though.
Oh, they were lovely shirts. I mean, I wanted the best. I wanted everyone to know these are quality collared shirts. Please notice. I was like, I feel like I felt horrible. I felt so inauthentic. And that's the thing I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize. You need to bring your authentic self to the table. Because there are a million people doing what you do. What makes you different? What sets you apart? Why should I pay you what you're asking for when you're just a cheap imitation of the person who's really doing what you do? Don't be a cheap imitation, you know. I had a friend tell me, you know, everybody's born a Price is Original, but so many people die a worthless carbon copy. And I'm like, I don't want to die a worthless carbon copy. I'm going to remain a Price Original. And so I took all those collar shirts back.
That's perfect. That's a perfect example of what people will end up doing because they don't really know, you know, what they should do, and they think, well, this person must know, so I'll follow what they are doing. You know, and I'm sure as you know that happens a lot in entrepreneurship where people will look at whoever is successful in their industry and figure, oh, this is who I have to model myself after. I got to look like them, be like them, do what they do, you know, in the way they do it. And a lot of people can go broke that way.
A lot of people do go broke. And even sometimes it's not even looking at other people. It's looking at ourselves. Like we think we were successful in this area, so that must mean if we keep doing the same thing, we'll be successful over here. In my book, in the intro, I give an example of Usain Bolt. Everyone knows the fastest man in the world right now, and I talk about him transitioning. You know, he's a sprinter, and it would be very difficult to go to Usain Bolt and say, you know what, you know nothing about running. Really? When was the last time you ran 100 meters in less than 100 yards in less than 10 seconds? But if Usain Bolt came to me and said, you know what, Dethra, I'm going to be a distance runner, it would kill him, literally kill him, to run distance running the same way he runs sprinting. And that's what we have to remember. We're going to different areas, so we can't take those employee habits because they'll literally kill us. And people do that. They say, I was successful as an employee, and I made it to this level, so I'm going to do exactly what I did as an employee. You're going to kill yourself as an entrepreneur. You just are. Yeah.
That's another great example. You have to really, you can't do the same exact thing. You know, and something related to that, you know, that just came up for me was also that When I transitioned into IT for a while, I did a career change and did that, and there was a lot of crazy hours and pretty much, the expectation is you're going to work nights and weekends and holidays and this whole thing. But then coming out of that, when I was doing freelance writing and doing some coaching, I almost felt guilty if I wasn't working like a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
oh my gosh.
Because you're supposed to keep it up.
Yeah, you feel like a slacker, like, I am not about to die. Something must be very wrong here.
But the mentality had been drilled into me that every second you must be doing these things, and a lot of times we were working those hours maybe because someone else made a decision that didn't make sense, or what else is happening on a project. You didn't really have to do those hours, but there's politics, there's things that happen, there's poor planning,
right.
all that goes on. But when you're doing it for yourself, now you can kind of say, okay, this is how I'm going to set this up. But yet again, my mentality was, this is what I have to do because I'm really busy all the time.
Exactly. I tell people, I say, I have freed myself from looking busy.
Yes.
That's what entrepreneurship has done for me.
Yes.
Because the idea is the best workers, the best employees are efficient and effective, which means they don't take 8 hours to do what people consider an 8-hour job. The best employees are doing that in 2 hours, but you got to look busy for 8.
Right,
so
right.
You just sit there and you work an extra 2 hours. So now a 2-hour job, you have 10-hour days, and you're killing the game. You're doing projects, taking on stuff. And I got into entrepreneurship, and I wanted to look busy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have anything to do, guess what? I'm not.
Yes.
What am I trying to look busy for? There is no one in this office except me. Who am I fooling? I'm going to the spa.
It's true, though. That is so true, because so much of it, as we said, it's a lot of it's appearance. Sometimes I was in situations where the manager wanted people to be at the desk a certain time because it looked a certain way, as opposed to, are you actually working and getting anything done, or are you being efficient? That was less in his mind than it was, well, they're sitting there, so they must be, that's what I want to see. And then you bring that habit out of there, it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. Actually, I work with people hiring me as a consultant. I work with one company, and I was telling them I could show them how to save the company $500,000 within the first year. And it was simply by allowing telework. And the head guy if I don't see them, I can't guarantee they're working. And I said to him, I can guarantee you right now that 60% of your workforce that are sitting out there right now are not doing a daggone thing. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that. And so not only are they doing nothing, you're paying for them to sit in a space that costs you money for them to do nothing. They can do nothing at home.
So true. It's so true.
And I told them, then we'll create measures by which they're held to. So it doesn't matter whether you're here or not. We have tangible items that tell me if you're working. That's how we make money.
Right.
And set a company $500,000, but he just wanted to see them. We are not in a relationship. We're not dating.
I want to see you.
I don't need to see you. Just tell me what you need from me, and I can send it to you. We don't need to see each other.
Oh my God, all of this is definitely ringing bells for me, because it was like, well, that makes no sense. I was like, of course someone's doing their work. Is the work done or not?
Exactly. Is it done? And the people, I can see them, but they're not doing anything. Right. They're not efficient. They're not producing. And the people who you're running out, especially now with the millennials who are requiring, we want telework. We don't come to the office every day. They're losing top talent because they don't have the resources to do this. And I'm like, the technology is there, and people are paying millions upon millions of dollars for rent in buildings that they don't need. You could outfit someone's home office and save yourself millions of dollars in rent.
Exactly.
And even open up your workforce. Like right now, I have a small office in Atlanta where I am, but my employees are literally all over the globe, and that opens up my talent pool. My talent pool is not just Atlanta, Georgia. My talent pool is China. My talent pool is Guam. My talent pool is California.
Mm-hmm.
I can now actually get the best.
That's an excellent point. That's true, and it makes sense. But I think you really have to have, I'm sure your book deals with this. You really have to have the mentality to open up your mind to say, the old way I was doing it, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to watch people. And so if I see them work, then I feel confident that they're working, which makes no sense.
Right. Absolutely. And one of the things I talk about in the book is the misconceptions we have about what we're actually doing. Like I talk about casting vision, and one story from an entrepreneur talked about how one day she realized she was waiting on someone to come and tell her what to do. And she had been a high-level manager in a company, and she thought all that time that she was casting vision. And I was like, you weren't really casting vision. You were setting high-level goals. Because the vision came down from the CEO, the owner of the company, and passed it down to you. And so what many of us who have been directors or VPs or sometimes even the C-suite, we thought what we were doing was casting vision. So we actually now have to go back and learn how to cast the vision, because no one's going to come into our office and say, here's the vision, now you set the parameters about how we achieve that.
Right.
And so we go about achieving quote-unquote stuff, but we don't know why. We have no clue where we're going with this company. And so a lot of it is really reframing what we thought we were doing, because we weren't ever really doing those things that we need to now do as an entrepreneur.
That's true. That makes a lot of sense. That really does, because even when you were, we would do things for our appraisal and your goals, pretty much they're saying, well, this is the company's goal and this is the division's goals, and then by the time it gets down to you, they pretty much are telling you what to put down. And
exactly.
Right. What you're doing has to align with what they've decided. So it's not that you're sitting there saying, well, this is my goal to do X, Y, Z, unless, you're planning to be promoted, but still, you still have to clear that with the people who you report to.
Exactly. Oh, we definitely talk about that, waiting for someone's approval. Like, no, hon, you're the approval. It stops with you. No one's going to tell you yay or nay. And that's a big one. So we're always used to, and again, because a lot of the people that go into entrepreneurship, they left corporate at a pretty high level. They left at VPs or, directors or C-suite. And so they really think, I've been approving stuff. Not really.
Right. That's true. Different kind of world and mentality, and then the politics and the whole thing going on there is a totally different experience.
Oh my gosh.
Outside, yeah. That's
and even getting into arriving early, this was my habit I had to learn. I was raised in a military household, and my mother taught me to be early is to be on time is to be late, and to be late is to be left. So I used to be an hour early for everything. And as an entrepreneur, I would arrive an hour early, and I got put to work. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, for example, I do public speaking. I need to have my mind set so I can get out there and engage this audience of 1,000, 2,000 people. And you have me running mic lines? Like, what are we doing right now?
I know.
So I had to unlearn that habit, because as an employee, arriving early meant she's a team player. She's always accountable. She's going to put in work. She'll do whatever. And that got me promoted. Well, as an entrepreneur, it was a bad habit for me, because I wasn't able to focus on what I was actually getting paid to do. And I realized I wasn't speaking as well. I wasn't training as well. I wasn't consulting as well as I needed to. I cut that down. I still arrive an hour early, because mentally I just go into a bad space if I feel like I'm going to be late. But I sit in the car.
Right. You can have your time to get ready for what you have to do.
Right, because it wasn't about, like we said, doing stuff. It wasn't about impressing people anymore with doing the stuff. It was about impressing them with the skill set I brought to the table to change their situation. And I couldn't do that if I was doing stuff before I engaged them.
Yeah, because they kind of look at people a little differently. It's almost like when you come professionally, but it's almost like if you hold yourself in a certain way, let people know how to treat you. And, we're
Exactly.
here to help you do X or share this with you. I'm not here to, fix the bathroom. I'm not here to fix the table. I'm here to
And it was so funny because one day, and I learned that lesson so well when one day I spoke at a conference. I was speaking, I was the keynote. The conference had about 1,500 people.
Mm-hmm.
People got my cards. They called me afterwards. And a woman called me, and I answered the phone, and she said, "May I speak to Dethra Giles?" And I said, "This is she." And she said, she paused, and there was a pregnant pause of silence, and she said, "You answer your own phone?" And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And you know what? I did not get that contract. She never called me back. And I was like, wow, like a ton of bricks. She said, "You answer your own phone," which meant something to her. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're right. I answer my own phone. And I thought I was helping my people out. I was helping my staff. Of course, I was proud of that. I'm the CEO, and I do No, it doesn't work.
Yeah. That's so true, because then people form an impression of what that means. Because in their mind, okay, if she's this, then these are the things that should be happening. And
right.
It's not to your advantage to be, doing everything, or at least, that's not how you want to be presenting yourself, because then they, that person now is thinking something completely different about you and what you're offering and where your position, I guess, for lack of a better word. So that's like I said, just nothing but wonderful points that you're making here, because they're all very true differences between the two worlds, really. There are big differences, and even if someone thinks that they're an entrepreneur within a company or thinking entrepreneurially, it's still a different environment once you step out of there, and you really have to.
That's right.
Definitely.
Yep.
Wow.
But what you have to learn is if you don't hunt and kill, you don't eat.
Yes. And in the workplace, you could just show up and.
Yes. You could just I'll take a day off. And no worries. Yeah, you can take a day off, but you will be fasting tomorrow.
So true. It really is, You think of the times when you just will go to work and sometimes you're just not in the mood, or you're annoyed, something, you're tired.
Right.
You just kind of do what you do. And, there were times when I just didn't get anything done because maybe the computer had a problem. Something went down. I'm like, doesn't anybody care?
You're like, I'm going home. Computer's not working. I'm going home.
I know.
Now, as your computer goes down, you're like, I am now an IT professional. Please fix computers.
It's a totally different thing. Totally different mentality.
Totally different.
Your computer is having issues, and you're at the workplace. You're like, oh well, let's go get some.
Exactly. For me, I use my computer a great deal when I'm out consulting or even speaking. I have actually said I have computer trouble. I will go to the local Best Buy and buy a whole. I can't afford to not have my computer working.
Right.
There is no go home.
Exactly. You have to have it. Those are things that you must have working to be able to do what you do.
Exactly.
As opposed to when you're in the office and maybe something doesn't work and maybe they'll get around to it later or tomorrow, and there just doesn't seem to be any big rush unless, with some kind of deadline. But even so, I've had that where they still aren't rushing. So then you begin to wonder, then why am I worried about it? Because they're not worried about it.
I mean, in the office, when you were an employee, stuff broke down. It was a moment of excitement. It was like, I go home. Oh, my God, it's broken.
I know.
Let's pray. Everyone hold hands. Pray to whoever you pray to that this does not get fixed today.
Right.
And we're all holding hands singing Kumbaya on our way out the door because the server is down. Yes.
Exactly.
As an entrepreneur, your server is down. It is catastrophic.
Yeah.
You're trying to call into the president. Do whatever you can, President Obama, to get this fixed because my life is going to end. Appoint a czar or something to make this right.
Exactly. It's a whole different reaction, when you have to get this going and you depend so much on it, as opposed to in those environments, it is totally different. It's totally different. And a lot of times, yeah, the power went out or something happened, and people can leave, or people are like, okay, okay.
And that's really how the idea of the book developed, is the conversation that you and I are having. Because initially, after my New York event where I got the bad ATM receipt back, I started having conversations with people, and I would say, I worked out the book a good habit. And they were like, wow, that's a unique way to put it. Let me tell you my experience. That's kind of how I had the book idea in my head, so the idea of adding the stories of real-life entrepreneurs in there came from those conversations, because everyone had these hilarious stories of, girl, it always started the way, girl, let me tell you. And I would say, that was better than mine.
It's true, though. There are so many. There are so many good ones out there that everybody's been through at some point, and yeah, you could when you come out, and it's totally the opposite of what you may have experienced, when you were in the workplace. So I'm sure.
Oh my God! And the sad thing is it doesn't happen quickly. I have one person that I interviewed, and she said she broke her good habit 17 years into entrepreneurship.
Really?
17 years in was when she realized, I am taking this habit from when I was an employee into entrepreneurship. Worked wonders for me as an employee. It is stifling my growth as an entrepreneur. 17 years. 17 years.
Because I guess she didn't really even see that she was doing that, and what the result was. Because it's probably so
yeah. Exactly. Because she had worked in corporate for 25 years. So for 25 years, this habit has served her well. What do you mean? Like Usain Bolt. What do you mean I can't run? What do you mean I'm not a good runner? What do you mean I don't know anything about running?
Exactly. That's true.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I could definitely see that, because there's just things that you've learned how to do over the time that you don't even realize are the things that may be working against you, because they're just so ingrained. And when you go into the workplace, you have to really take those on. They say this is how you behave, and this is what you do, and this is how you work.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's kind of relearning now everything else in this new environment. So yeah, I think a lot of people need to understand that, because I think so many people, especially now, that you hear so much about entrepreneurship, and so many people maybe getting laid off, deciding they're going to leave, and then not understanding that they do have to make that transition between the two.
And what I find in my consulting is that people don't differentiate being a consultant with being a business owner. A lot of people just actually want to be consultants. They don't really want to own and run a business.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
And so making that difference is difficult. And so some people realize, I don't understand why I'm struggling because I'm a business owner. No, actually you're more of a consultant than a business owner. And then also we have to learn, we've always been taught, the best predictor for future results is past performance. And so our past performance tells us that doing those things work wonders for us.
Right.
So past performance says keep doing that.
Exactly.
Like, except, no, don't keep doing that. Stop that immediately, like yesterday, because you're killing yourself.
Stop it.
Yes. Like, what advice would you give me? Stop. That's just one word. Just stop.
That's right to the point.
Yeah, just stop it. Like everything you got. And, the funny thing is, for a lot of people, they don't know what entrepreneurship really is. I think people have this fictitious idea that, you wake up and you work half days and you call your own shots. And it's like, yeah, I work half days. I just have to pick which 12 hours I choose of that day.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. You could just make your hours, but the hours are going to be done somewhere in there.
Yeah.
They're going to happen. They just may happen differently than they used to, but it doesn't mean you're not putting in the work.
Yep.
Yeah, to get that done, and what you're saying. It also again it continues to resonate, and I know in terms of writing, I working on a few novels and everything, and a lot of people. It's the same thing. They hear, oh well, I can get my book out there and I can self-publish, and I'm just going to make this book, and I'm going to, people are going to buy it, and I don't have to do anything to promote it, and I don't want to be a business owner, but I just want to make all these books and make money. And I'm like, well, it's you have to have kind of a business look at this like anything else, because if you're the publisher. You can say you're in business now.
You're right. You give them my one word, stop. Stop.
Stop. But,
that's going to be my new phrase.
Yeah. It's like thinking, like you're saying about the consulting. People have this idea of what they think these things are. And they think, oh, this is all I have to do, and then I'm going to make all this money, I'm going to be successful, and blah, blah, blah. But they're not thinking that, well, you got to roll up your sleeves, and you've got to still kind of look at this in a whole different way, because the people who are doing it successfully have had to do that. They've had to really look at it from a different perspective. And that's kind of the missing piece between.
Exactly. I talk to a few younger people who will say, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to be like X. I want that life. And what I have to tell them is you're looking at an end result, which is very different than the journey. Like I had a person tell me, I asked her, what do you want to do? She said, I want to do what you do. I want your life. I said, oh, honey. You have no idea. Like, you're looking at an end result right now, like I want a contract right now with the NSA, the security agency. And she's like, I want that. Do you know how hard I had to work? This contract is like 5 years in the making. I didn't just wake up and get a contract with the NSA. I started out doing little grunt things here and there, little small contracts. No one just woke up one day and said, hey, you know what? We just want to give her a $50,000 check just because she's awesome.
Right.
You start off with a little $500. And you move up, and so you work your way to this. So if you're willing to do the grunt work that it takes to get here, you can absolutely have it, but you're not going to. Unlike Beyonce, none of us wake up like this. The rest of us put on makeup,
right.
We have Spanx and all that other good stuff. Most of us do not wake up like this.
Exactly. And that's the thing, I think that's something I've seen recently. People are talking about, how people present themselves on social media, for instance. And, everything's always wonderful, and you're always beautiful.
Right.
Everything's great, and everything's successful that you do. And people don't get to see what's going on behind the curtain, so they just believe what they see, and that's it. That must be the thing. I want to do what she's doing because she must, know what magic there is to do.
Because no one posts on social media, my husband is a jerk. He forgot to get the trash. He left the door open. The dog escaped. We're running around the neighborhood trying to find our cat. They're flying in our house. They just post, we got our house remodeled, and look how awesome it looks.
Exactly. That's it.
No one posts we had a remodel because there were deer in here because someone forgot to lock the door.
Right. No, we don't see those signs of anything.
No. Oh, yeah. No one posts yet. They always post the wedding pictures, but no one posts like yesterday this wedding almost did not happen.
Yeah, I'm sure them they shouldn't have, but...
Exactly. Like, what you should have posted was, we're canceling this wedding because we decided to be cheaper than a divorce in like a year.
Exactly.
So Because that's what people see when it comes to
right.
business. They see that and think, I want that because it looks great from the outside. But honey, I'm a duck. I'm floating on top of the water, but underneath I am kicking feverishly to stay afloat.
Yes. That's really the truth of it that people don't see, and you know, some people I think are open to learning and really wanting to understand, but others, they really are kind of in love with the whole image. And, you know, nowadays it's just easier to present that image. It's easier and easier to present the image to people, and they never see what's underneath that and what work they'd have to do, you know, to get to that point, if that's really what they want, or are they just in love with what they see. Just the beauty of what they see is what they want.
And most people are in love with what they see. Like, for example, one of my clients, large clients, is the Boys and Girls Club of America. Mm-hmm. So when I do events for them, of course, they have a lot of celebrities who are supporters of the club. And so when I go and do events at their national conference or in regional conferences or go to clubs, I'm taking pictures with these celebrities, and people see that, oh my gosh, I want to take a picture with Sugar Ray Leonard, or I want to take a picture with Misty Copeland, and it's like, so that was one picture. I've been here for 5 days working my butt off. Mm-hmm. So no one they just see the picture, like you said on social media, I post a picture, oh, this is me and whomever, and oh, I want the picture with that person. No, you have to work 5 days, sweat, tears, blood, and then you get that picture on the 5th day.
Right. I think that's really what it is. You know, it's all the things that have to go into that people don't see, and some people really are in love with that end result that they see, and then, you know, in some cases they go out there and try to duplicate it, and then it doesn't really work out very well for them because they're not prepared. You know,
at all.
Not prepared to do what it takes to get out there, or you know, kind of presenting themselves as, you know, I'm this expert or that expert, and then, you know, maybe you would try to work with them and you find out that they're not really what they're presenting themselves as, because yeah, it sounds familiar, huh?
So when I say that has been one of the most difficult tasks of my existence, is finding a good PR person. But what you do find is exactly what you're talking about. People will say, oh, well, I do this and I do that. But when you ask questions, you realize, you know what, you have no clue, and you're putting yourself off as this expert. And it's like, well, since I'm not quite an idiot, I just can't do it. I know what to ask. And even for ourselves as entrepreneurs, that's something we have to learn. We have to learn to be okay asking questions. I tell people, when I became an entrepreneur, I stopped spending money. I no longer spend money. I only invest money. And since I'm investing, I expect a return on my investment, which gives me the right to ask as many questions as I desire.
Yes, exactly.
And people feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I feel comfortable. Oh, my gosh, I'm sorry to ask another question. Ask away. You're paying me. As long as the clock is going, you can ask. Feel free. Keep going.
Oh, really? There you go. And it's true, because I think PR is one of those fields that looks so glamorous from the outside, and so people are like, no, I'm an expert, you know, or I'm an expert on this type of social media, and they've been there for 2 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, I had one person tell me, it's going to cost you $5,000 a month, but I can give you no guarantees. I thought, I need to switch my career immediately. I need to go into PR. I need to go into a field where I can charge someone $5,000 a month with a 6-month minimum and tell them I cannot guarantee them anything.
Oh, my goodness.
I thought, are you serious? $5,000 a month?
Yes.
You personally need to stand on every billboard with the microphone.
Wow. If someone could even say that.
And they said it, Deborah, they said it with comfort and ease, as if you don't pay it, there are many others who will. I told them for $5,000, I need you to get me appointed to a presidential cabinet position. For $5,000 a month for 6 months.
That's for sure. Oh, my goodness.
But as entrepreneurs, but it happens when breaking good habits too when I wrote about it. But people, we're so used to the company tells us this person's coming in, they're expert. We don't question it because that's a good habit. Don't get into it. The last thing you want to do is be the person to tell the big wig that they sent in an incompetent person.
Exactly.
I am not going to be the bearer of bad news. So I don't challenge it.
Yes.
And we take that into entrepreneurship. Someone says, I don't challenge it. Because, that was a good habit. It saved me before, so I'm not going to challenge it now. No. That's a good habit to break.
Mhm. Yeah, you really have to. You have to, and you really have to ask questions, as you said, because some people, just a couple of times just dealing with people just on a minor level, and they either don't show up or don't follow through or don't finish up, or you ask them for something and there's always a reason why they couldn't get it done, and it's always these really bizarre reasons, and I'm like, is all this really happening to this person? Soap opera. But, like, wow, this is, everything's catastrophic, and you're like, well, this is put on this end, I need to have this done by this date because this is important to me. It's not just, well, I'll just do this when I get to it kind of thing. But, as you're saying, there's people who just don't have that same mentality about standing by their word and being professional, and it's just all very haphazard. And sometimes you don't know. You don't really know who you're dealing with until you really, as you said, ask some questions and see what's going on, because people present themselves as anything at this point. And
oh, yeah.
You don't know because it looks very nice and packaged, but what's really behind it?
I think oftentimes when you see that, people have spent a lot of money on their branding and marketing. Goes to branding experts and social media experts to look the part. They look great. And behind it is the Wizard of Oz. It's just this guy behind his smoke and mirrors who knows absolutely nothing. He's just fools on one into thinking.
Yes. That's it entirely, and it seems to be getting, I don't know, maybe it's always been bad, but I think in the visual, things that we have going on now, particularly with social media, it just seems that there's more people who can present themselves looking a certain way and really not have anything to really show for it, or their habits are such that they're not really going to help you because they don't know themselves, or they're just very sloppy about how they actually do their work, or it's all just a lie to begin with, but now you can be so super slick about it, and it's more and more reason to really question, I think now, maybe more than ever. You're really sure you know who you're dealing with in your business, because that is important, as we're saying. You really can't take the chances. Maybe as a corporate person you didn't question, but now that investment can be, really devastating if it turns out that person's not who they say they are. So.
Absolutely. And I think it's gotten worse, to your point. I think it has gotten worse because it's so much easier now to get that false message out. Like before, you had to spend a significant amount of money to get your message out to a large group of people. Now you can get your message out to hundreds of thousands of people for less than $200.
Well, that's true.
For a Facebook ad, you can pay $20 and get your message to 5,000 people.
That's true.
Just like that.
Yeah. You could really spread that out there even more and not put that much of an investment in it.
No, and all you have to invest in is looking like you know what you're talking about. People will easily spend, let's say, $20. Oh, this program is $20. Oh, $20. I spend that on coffee. $20. If you get 10,000 people to pay $20, you're doing pretty good.
That's true. It doesn't really even have to say anything that's going to help them. But you've got your money.
Yeah. And so I think social media has made that made being a fraud without the ramifications so much easier. Because before, to be a fraud, to make it worth it, you couldn't reach that many people, so you had to defraud them a lot of money. Right. Now you can defraud thousands of people, $10, $15, $20 a piece. Who's going to complain? It's only $20.
That's true. So they probably won't even make a big fuss about it. Some people will, but others won't. And then this person goes along, and it just continues. So that's the thing, as you said, asking questions and really looking at everything you're doing a lot differently than you did before, because there's a lot of pitfalls out here, and as you said, it seems to be growing because it's easier for people now to be more persuasive and get more people in that net. Yeah, unfortunately, there's good with the technology, but then there's the other side to it. There's always the other side to things as well that we have to watch out for. So this has been such a wonderful conversation. I'm sure we could be here all day.
Right.
I'm definitely enjoying it because this is everything that I have come to realize, and I'm sure there's more things in the book that I hadn't even thought about with myself, but I certainly will be diving into it as soon as I can. So, please share with everyone where they can find you and find your book.
Absolutely. So you can find me at DethraGiles.com. That's DethraGiles.com. You can order the book there as well. And actually every week on Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. I do a live Periscope, 15-minute Periscope. I'm the chief bridge architect, so I help my clients build their bridge between I want to be and I am. And I do a bridge building session every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. And they can follow me on Twitter, Periscope at DU Giles. That's DUGILES.
And the Periscope is also the same handle?
Yes, it's DU Giles, DUGILES on Periscope.
Okay. So, as I said, this has been a wonderful conversation because there's just so much that people need to understand as they're out here now that I think, maybe we didn't even consider when this whole entrepreneurship thing started to explode. So there's so much more we really have to know if we want to be successful. So, as we're wrapping up, do you have any, final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yes, my biggest thing for everyone is to rethink what you thought you knew. I don't think we take the time to do that. We think we know something and we go with it and we use it as our driving force, but it's okay to stop, sit back and think about what you know and see how that can help you or hurt you as you go forward, regardless of how it's helped you in the past. So sit down and really assess, rethink what you know, you can really get to the level you're trying to go to.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. That is wonderful advice, and I know that everybody will check out your book and definitely the Periscope and Twitter and really just learn what they have to do to be better at entrepreneurship and just kind of realize that there's some things we have to think differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just kind of be open to making those changes. So, Dethra, I want to thank you so much for this conversation. I've learned so much, and I'm so glad that you could join me. I really enjoyed our talk.
It was an absolute pleasure being here, and thank you for having me. If there's any way I can ever help you, you give me a call.
Well, I certainly will. I want to thank you because you certainly have helped me in this conversation. I wish I could have had this a while back, I'm telling you. It would have been very helpful for me, believe me. Oh, my goodness. But I will certainly be checking out your book because I think it is really, really needed. So, I really appreciate having you here today. And everyone, I'm sure you enjoyed this, and make sure you share it. Let your friends know to listen in. And, again, it's on iTunes and also on Podomatic. dbcoach.podomatic.com, but you can come to womenentrepreneursecrets.com, and you can see links for where the show is available and listen in, and also the bios of the shows are always there, the show guests and links there as well. So, lots of ways for you to find out how to find out more and how to get your friends to check it out as well. So, once again, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Really glad you could join me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye now.